sermon entitled The Gift of the Holy Spirit, preached by Reverend Jim Cock at the Christian Reformed Church in Iowa City, Iowa on March 13, 1966, from the book of Galatians 3 verse 1 through 5, Heidelberg Catechism question 61 and 62. For 2,000 years the gospel of Jesus Christ has been proclaimed, teaching of the forgetting free grace of God toward people who are incapable of providing a way of salvation for themselves. Still, the number of happy and joyful people is small, and somehow the reason seems best accounted for by the internal conviction people have that they must pay their own way, and so lofty spiritual ideals and moving experiences of God's grace in individual lives seem repeatedly to follow the pattern Paul laments here with the Galatians. Having begun in the Spirit, but ye now perfected in the flesh, and the words he uses here in the Greek for begun, a circumflex euros, having begun in the Spirit, and for perfected are ye now perfect in the flesh, are words borrowed from sacrifice terminology. The first one, begun, is the word for scattering the grains of barley on and around the animal as the first part of the sacrifice ritual, and the word perfected refers to having completed the sacrifice. Paul indicates by his choice of words that the whole Christian life is a sacrificial life, and he is asking them rhetorically if they are not trying by their practices to accomplish something by their own human actions which is contrary to the spirituality of the gospel message. Someone has put the evil age on you, he says in verse 1. You have been Jesus Christ was openly set forth crucified, and he uses words which mean like a poster put up in a public place. Jesus was paraded before them like a sign held by a protester for everyone to see. It was like a father posting a notice that he would no longer be responsible for his son's debts. An official, public display has been made. What stupidity to try to add your own efforts to the cause which has been so openly declared as sufficient. Did you earn the Holy Spirit, or was it given to you? He asks. Of course it was given to you because you listened with believing hearts. Do you think then that God just starts you off with the gift of the Holy Spirit and you have to finish it yourself by your own efforts? Do you think that the experience of God's free saving acceptance of you which you once knew and trusted sort of just starts the ball rolling and you have to continue it from there? Here I think the application comes close to us and to the history of the church as well. How often don't we at a time in our younger years experience perhaps, in some instance, or in some way the great wonder of God's free salvation to me, an unworthy person, which experience has not been the result of anything we have done. Perhaps the Lord has used a situation to bring it home to us, but the conviction itself has been one of mystery and even ecstasy as we realize God's love for an unworthy person such as I am. Sidebar notes, like having teed off in the spirit and putted out in the flesh. Call to worship versus benediction refers to the lucidity and unmistakability of the preaching. Page 2. But as time passes, we begin to move away from the experience, and the freedom passes. We begin to think of salvation as something we better do something about. A sense of guilty undeservedness tells us to get busy in some way to pay for or to earn what we once knew in a special way. Now it isn't the less bright of the most unspiritual who have this problem especially. Certainly the Galatians seemed to be among those Christians who received the Holy Spirit in a very dramatic and moving way. No, it is often those who are growing in understanding of God's mercy who stumble on this. It is those who want most earnestly God's forgiveness and are most in awe of his acceptance that tend to be driven by this sense of need and unworthiness to do what they can to pay and to perfect themselves through their own efforts. People who have received the Holy Spirit, that is, who have demonstrated in their lives the gifts of the Spirit, as Paul lists later in chapter 5, a circumflex euros, love, joy, peace, long-suffering, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, meekness, self-control, have a tendency to petrify, to become like stone, to bog down into the feeling that they ought to do more but then despairing that they cannot do enough. Now Paul brings this up also. Do you think that you were able to do such things? That great things have happened because of your own intelligence and fine qualities, works of the law, or because of your faith in God? He asks, implying the answer, do you think the qualities of the Spirit which you have, the miracles that have happened in many of your warriors changing you so completely, do you think these happened because you were living in a certain law-abiding way? Or do you see that it could only have been because of faith? No doubt part of the reason human nature continually slips into this error of wanting to do something to purge away sin is because the natural inclination we have of misusing religious ritual. Somehow it is easier to avoid the remorsefulness and broken-heartedness of confession of wrongdoings behind an artificially clean conscience because of having carried out certain performances. And we do this in so many ways. We sacrifice the joy of life trying to deserve God's grace. We see people holding to the far-reaching periphery of religious observances as if God will reward that service to him. Often there's a danger that our orthodoxy is an orthodoxy of the flesh, as if God will certainly save us for beating the stronghold of historic Christianity instead of being orthodox vitally because it cries out as the answer man needs. Church people are in danger of being the least able to understand the grace by which we stand, the free love of God, for we see so many fine things in our lives which we are convinced God is thrilled with. Is he thrilled with our giving dollars? Is he thrilled that we spend 2 hours in church on Sunday? Is he thrilled that we don't swear and have controls against promiscuity? Is he thrilled when he sees our concern for fellow man which arises out of duty? Page. He is thrilled when we come humbly before him, confessing our nothingness before him. Heaven rejoices when a lost soul is found, when one who has been self-sufficient finds Jesus Christ, when one who sees everything he is and does as laughably inadequate to pay his way back to God. And millions may be closer to understanding this than some of us who have been born and raised in the church with a sense of security. And perhaps the sense of security is appropriate if it is based on Christ's death and resurrection. But on the other hand, to live in security all one's life may rob us of the ability to see that we have nothing creditable, nothing really to trade for salvation, whereas the sensitive, churchless sinner may be walking through life more fully aware that he is without a credit. Let not the trappings of your life blind you to the way of salvation. May our training and neatness of life not delude us. Smug men of piety awake.